Philadelphia Eagles, New York Giants, Thursday night football. Everything you need to know for your fantasy teams and player projections in 15 minutes. If you've never been here before, welcome. My name is Max. I make these for every single primetime game as well as every game on Sunday, giving you a unique edge, looking at run scheme metrics, coverage data, and overall statistical trends that not a lot of people talk about because it relates to the scheme behind the game of football instead of just the numbers we see on the screen. Without further ado, let's get into it. We are coming off a hot pick of Jacksonville upsetting the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday night. Let's see if we can keep this going. As always, all my picks will be on my socials. There's a link in the description for them. The Eagles are 7-point favorites against the Giants, and the total here is 40.5. We'll talk short week over at the very end. In terms of the side, I don't love either one. If I'm being fully honest with you guys, I think the Eagles win this game, but I don't love the number here. I think the Giants can keep this close. In terms of important injuries, Darius Slayton, Grant Calcaterra, and Landon Dickerson all ruled out. Now, on the Giants end, it's huge with Slayton because he was the true number one with Malik Neighbors out. I know Wan'Dale Robinson had plenty of targets. Theo Johnson, oddly enough, had a lot of targets too. But Slayton was the true outside guy, deep threat, which the Eagles are being targeted at a pretty solid amount. So it's important to understand somebody's going to have to step up. Maybe it's Jalen Hyatt. I'm not leaning too much into it because there are other things you can look at in this game, like Tyrone Tracy being back. Well, he does not carry an injury designation going into this game. I don't know if he's back in full. However, I don't think it hurts Cam Scadaboo's touches because the numbers we see here, right? These guys, the Eagles run defense, bottom 12 in rush yards per game, around 4.8 yards per carry, and Jalen Carter probably going to play, but just popped up on the injury report. It's important to understand that. In terms of the other outliers for the Eagles defense, 35 pass attempts a game, so Dart is going to have his through the air. Here's the issue. Eagles are pretty balanced in terms of what they do, and a lot of their coverages, they play a good amount of quarters, close the middle of the field a good amount, a decent amount of man. Like, it's the first true balanced defense that Jackson Dart is going to see. Chargers definitely not balanced. Saints not really. This is the first true balanced defense that Jackson Dart is going to see, and now he has to do it without his top two outside wide receivers. Personally, I don't love it. I don't love it. Now, when you look at what the Giants can do and really have to do in this game, it's control the ball, control the clock. My question is, can they? On the other side, we'll talk about the Giants defense. You have an Eagles offense, that runs the ball pretty well, runs the ball frequently, and takes advantage of defenses like the Giants. That's the bottom line. I don't think they can control the ball on the clock like they want to. They want to, though. I want to make that clear. They want to do it, and I think early on, you're going to see heavy usage with Cam Scadaboo. So like first quarter rush yards or first quarter rush attempts. Early on, they're going to try to establish it. They're going to have to make the Eagles play from behind. I think very, very early, the Giants can get really aggressive. So if you're looking at first quarter, first half picks, I think the Giants' mind will be there. As the game goes, though, I don't love it. And it's simply because Jackson Dart doesn't have a ton of targets to throw the ball to. So with Dart, Theo Johnson had 12 targets, Wan'Dale Robinson had 12 targets, Cam Scadaboo had 9 targets. Now, in terms of data outliers for this Eagles defense and running back receptions, tight end receptions, slot receptions, like there's no big data outlier. The thing that I would have felt most comfortable with looking at the Eagles defense, the fact that they're balanced, they'll close the middle field a good amount, is Jackson Dart throwing the ball out wide. Who's going to be running those out wide routes now? Obviously, Malik Neighbors is done for the year. Darius Slayton is out. I can't confidently lean into somebody like Jalen Hyatt or Lil Jordan Humphrey, like somebody like that. I can't do that. I can't confidently do it. However, I do really like Theo Johnson with the upside and his usage with Dart. When you look at these comparative projections for Theo Johnson, 25.5 receiving yards for him, I think is a little bit too low. Now, this is obviously not financial or professional advice, but I'm looking at Theo Johnson at 25.5 when he's had pretty solid performances with Jackson Dart, multiple 3+ reception games. And again, 5 targets 2 weeks ago, 7 targets the week prior. I love him to get at least 25 yards in a game where you look at the spread, the game script is probably going to favor a couple extra passes down the line. And the reality with the Eagles is when they get up, they run the ball, they sit back in soft zone, and they're okay playing bend, don't break. If that's happening, Theo Johnson is getting plenty of targets against this Eagles defense. And then Cam Scadaboo, 12.5 receiving. Like, I look at Cam Scadaboo's receiving production the last 2 weeks. He has blown those numbers out of the water in terms of overall targets and how he should be producing. And then you actually look at the numbers and you still feel pretty confident with Scadaboo, 12.5 receiving, even with Tyrone Tracy coming back. Again, Tracy does not carry an injury designation, which is important to note. However, this is a game where they're probably not going to rush somebody back on a short week. Your starting running back in Cam Scadaboo has looked really good for you so far. And he very clearly has a role in this offense, even with Tracy, like that Dallas game that we saw. So I like Scadaboo in the sense that he's going to get the ball a ton. He's probably going to be involved in the pass game. And the reality is it's a short week with your, quote, starting or really your 1A, 1B running back coming back in Tyrone Tracy Jr. He should have plenty of opportunity. So I like Scadaboo. I like Theo Johnson. On the other side, there's something very, very glaring with this Giants defense. They stink. Like let's just be real here for a second. They stink. They stink. The data outliers, 38 pass attempts a game allowed, really bad. 7th most pass yards allowed, really bad. Bottom 10 in rush yards per game. Do you guys know how hard it is to be bottom 10 in pass yards overall and rush yards per game? It's pretty hard to do. Most receiver receptions allowed as well. So they're a very man-heavy team. If you haven't watched the Giants, it's odd because Shane Bowen, their defensive coordinator, didn't really do this a ton last year, but they're very man-heavy. They load the box. They will do everything they can to stop the run, even though they don't really have the backer play to do it right now. But the bottom line is they're going to load the box. They're going to play some cover 1, even cover 3 match. And teams have taken advantage, right? Obviously, last week you have the long Rashid Shaheed touchdown. That was actually against zone, but you take advantage of the coverage that has been bad all year. Quentin Johnston touchdown. Cowboys had a ton of chunk plays. Enormous games for CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens in that game. Bottom line is Jalen Hurts takes his shots versus man-to-man. It's not a coincidence. When you go look at A.J. Brown's 3 best games this year, right? 3 best games this year. It's against Kansas City. It was against the Los Angeles Rams. And production-wise, it was against the Denver Broncos. It's teams that are very man-heavy or middle field close heavy. The Giants are both. So the receiver production is going to be there. However, diving a little bit deeper, there's some serious, sorry for the alliteration here, serious slot susceptibility on the Giants end defensively. You have Paulson Adebo as your number 1 corner, and if they play the true shadow with A.J. Brown, he'll probably follow A.J. Brown. There hasn't been a ton of shadowing this year out of the Giants, but in a game like this, I think they will. He can try to take A.J. Brown out of the equation. He's going to get snaps, but Devontae Smith is the guy I'm looking at because he has taken a lot of the slot routes for the Philadelphia Eagles. He is a good separator, and the reality is Drew Phillips has been getting picked on at nickel. Like, you put Quentin Johnston on him, he's too big for Drew Phillips. You put somebody like CeeDee Lamb on him, he's too quick for CeeDee Lamb. I think Drew Phillips is a great player and actually great in run support as a nickel, but he's been getting picked on. That's where teams try to attack. And if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, the Giants are going to do everything they can to load the box. You're going to throw the ball there. You're going to throw the ball to where you feel your best one-on-one matchup is. And somehow the connection hasn't been there with A.J. Brown. And I think Hurts wants to keep it within the hashes. The best place to do that is in the slot against a guy that's been picked on. And even if Devontae Smith is on the outside, he's probably getting the Deontay Banks shadow. And if anybody's out there as a Giants fan, we know how I feel about Deontay Banks. I like Devontae Smith in that matchup. That's the reality. So when you look at some comparative projections here, I really like Devontae, 49.5 and longest 19, over 19.5. We cashed out on the Travis Hunter longest and Travis Hunter yards, but Travis Hunter longest in the same sense where Trent McDuffie was probably going to be on Brian Thomas Jr. We liked our matchup. All it took was 1. I think all it could take is 1 for Devontae Smith with this 49.5 number, but longest 19.5 as well. We'll talk short week over in a second here, but in terms of the run scheme metrics for Saquon, I mean, the Giants defense, again, like 140 rush yards per game. It's pretty bad. 5+ yards per carry. Bottom 5 in both 10+ yards and in 20+ yards runs too. So like the explosiveness is there. Saquon, the last time they played, similar offensive structure. Granted, no Landon Dickerson, which is important. He had 17 for 176 and a touchdown, guys. Like, he's going to succeed against this defense. Now, his projection is at 85.5 right now. My worry there is kind of like what happened in the last meeting where he gets taken out because they're dominating so much. Like, I don't think the Giants defense can hold the Eagles, to be honest with you. And I look at that and I get concerned where Saquon could, bust out a big run or two, have 75 yards in the first half, and all of a sudden the Eagles are looking at a scoreboard 24-0 in the second half, and they start to taper off his carries. Here comes Will Shipley. Here comes A.J. Dillon. Here comes Tank Bigsby. That's what worries me. Like, if this was a game where the Eagles were like 3-point favorites and this was the matchup on the ground, I'd like it. But they're a touchdown favorite, and the Giants are equally as susceptible, if not more susceptible, through chunk plays in the air. So I'm staying away from Saquon for that reason. He's a really good matchup. But here's the bottom line. Short week over, guys. Giants defense, not good. Eagles defense has Jalen Carter banged up. His 40.5 number is too low. I think it's too low. I think when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they've taken advantage, again, of those teams that play, generally speaking, middle field close. They scored a ton against the Rams. Granted, one of them was special teams. But they scored a ton against the Rams. They scored 20 against the Kansas City Chiefs. The only time they didn't against those middle field close teams was Denver last week, and that is arguably the best defense in the NFL. So that is not the New York Giants defense. And I think on the other side, Philadelphia has some kinks they have to work out offensively. Short week, minimal preparation. you're going to throw everything at this Eagles defense too if you're Brian Dable. I think that number is too low. I think it could be a garbage time. I truly do think that 40.5 number is too low. But I appreciate you guys watching. As always, if you are new, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our full Week 6 preview. God bless you guys, and we'll see you next time.